Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a review video for the 2021 Safeway Open where, believe it or not, Stewart Cink won. Not my first pick, and according to ownership percentage, not many of your guys' first picks either. Kind of remarkable that Stewart Cink won. Now, I think he was a solid play. He's been playing pretty poorly. You know what? Let's just go ahead and get in the spreadsheet. What we're going to do in this video is just go over everything that led up to the conclusion of this. So we're going to talk about the course fit. We'll talk about stat fit, and then the strategy video, where we went wrong, that kind of thing. But we're going to start here at the results. So Stewart Cink won 21 under. He was just solid throughout the whole week. When we get into the DK page, you're going to see he had many rounds at 65. Well, not many, but he was under par each and every round. 70 being his highest score, and then 65 being his lowest. Like, he was consistent every single day, and we don't really see that, honestly, or we don't see it much, especially at Stewart Cink's caliber. So kind of remarkable, honestly. I would have assumed Harry Higgs would have came back and won this, especially eagling hole 16. I thought it was, I don't know. I didn't really watch a lot, but I was following the end, and I don't know. I mean, Stu Cink he birdied the last hole to kind of cement the victory, but Harry Higgs had his opportunities. Anyways, we were looking at 17 under, like the score to be around 17 under, 21 under one. And with it being as low, I think it was like 12 under was the leading score after Friday's round, after the second round. And what I'm starting to get into is scoring averages and how many times someone shoots in the 60s or sub 70. Very rare for someone to do it all 4 rounds, like very rare. So we knew there was going to be some regression, basically, from the guys who did shoot low Thursday, Friday. I really hadn't been tracking it up until now. It's really interesting, and we'll see it in the DK page. So really, the guys we see up here, we see a lot of veterans, we see a lot of young guys, and it's a good mix of both. I mean, we got a lot of old guys up there. Stewart Cink, Kevin Streelman. We could probably lump Ches Reavie in there. I'm sure he probably wouldn't like that. Now, James Hahn isn't that old, but he's getting up there too. But a lot of our young guys are up there, like Harry Higgs, Doc Redman. I mean, Brian Stewart would be an old guy too. Sam Burns, a lot of good rookies. Anyways, let's go ahead. Let's go right into basically the optimal lineup versus the whatever GPP I played that has the highest entry fee, basically. I won't lie, I forgot to put an entry into the $5. I only put one. So Chad Eckert helped me. He gave me the $3 birdie winning lineup, as well as the DK points and ownership percentage. So that's what we're going to be looking at, is the $3 birdie winning lineup. He used all $50,000, and it's highlighted in blue over here. Harry Higgs, Ches Reavie, Doc Redman, Christopher Ventura, Pat Perez, and Brennan Steele, who finished 29th. And Brennan Steele only scored 84 points. At $10,000, you could have done way better than that. But hey, man, the guy won. And he won scoring 653 points. So his golfers got him 653. The optimal lineup, pretty easy to tell. You can see the DK points up here. No one scored more than 115 below third place. I shouldn't even say it that way. No one scored more than 111 points below third place. So all the guys at the top of the leaderboard, also in your optimal lineup, the top of the DK point leaderboard. And that's Stewart Cink, Harry Higgs, Ches Reavie, Doc Redman, Kevin Streelman, and Brian Stewart. And you would have used 47,900. Optimal lineup was 719 points. That's nearly, I mean, it's 66 points from the $3 birdie winning lineup. So there was massive potential. It would have been, let's put it this way, it wouldn't have been difficult to beat the $3 birdie lineup, but we're here, so obviously nobody did. There's a lot of different combinations, and you guys can just see it on here. I mean, You could substitute any one of these guys for someone similar to their price point or even lower, and it would have been better than the 3. You just had to score more than 84 points. Whatever one, just actually it's more than that, but keep it in mind, anyone at the salary point, find someone below that scored more than 84 points, and you're going to beat that lineup. So lots of different combinations that could have done it. Obviously, it didn't happen. So let's go ahead and go right into the 2021 DK page. I typically like to go from left to right and figure it out that way. But what I really want to do first, I'm going to, let's go ahead, hide this. We'll open it back up. But here's what I want to do. Let's go kind of like from video to video. And first of all, we'll talk about course fit. So in the course fit video, we were looking for golfers who, usually what we talk about are golfers who shape shots. We'll look at a course preview and then determine based off that video or based off of what we see in that course preview, we determine, do we want to target golfers who fade the ball or draw the ball? In the future, I will have those stats on here. Like, what does this golfer typically hit? Does he hit a fade? Does he hit a draw? You're going to have to use my word for the time being. So what we saw in that course preview were just a few more holes, like into the green, we wanted to fade the golf ball. Off the tee, there was one more hole we wanted to draw the golf ball, then fade it. But for the most part, it didn't matter. I think it was like 5 draws. Yeah, I have it right in front of me. There was more than that. My apologies. There were 4 holes where you wanted to draw it off the tee, 1 hole you wanted to fade, and then the rest of them were both. In approach, there were 5 draws, 8 fades, and then 5 that didn't matter. So when we're talking about scoring, off the tee doesn't so much matter, like how you shape a shot. You can basically hit them over trees if you need to. That's basically when we see a shot shape off the tee, it's to avoid trouble is how we want to shape shots. If there's no trouble, we can hit whatever shot shape we want. Most holes basically fit someone's eye or not, and that's where we look into like shot shape off of that. But I mean, there really wasn't any trouble here. There wasn't much for hazards that you had to worry about. So off the tee didn't really matter. Into the greens is where I would say we wanted to find fade golfers. And really the top guys that you see here, a lot of these guys hit fades. Stuart Sink hits a fade. Harry Higgs is left-handed. I can't remember if he draws the ball. I know during his albatross. During his albatross, I think he hit a fade into the hole. I'm just not positive on that. I know it sloped. It had to have, because it when it landed, it was moving left. Obviously, the hill would have helped to go left, but it was moving left from his point of view, not from our point of view. And I would assume that had to have been a fade for him. Either way, I'm not exactly sure what Harry Higgs hits, but I do know Brian Stewart hits a fade, Streelman hits a fade, Reevy hits a fade, Redman hits a fade. I'm not sure what Burns does. I have it written down somewhere. For whatever reason, my memory tells me he hits a draw, so obviously that doesn't apply to him. And I don't know what Ventura hits, but Hahn hits a fade, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Knox hits a fade. I know Pat Perez hits a fade. But either way, a lot of this top leaderboard, they hit fades. And more likely in every tournament, you'd want to find a fade golfer, primarily because it's the most control you're going to have on the greens with a golf ball. It also produces the most backspin. It's a good ball flight to have, a good shot shape to have for approach. Anyways, so that was kind of the shot shape. So now we kind of talked about that. We can see that the top of the leaderboard primarily hit fades, left to right shots. And then we would talk about course history, but really, here, let me put this up here. I want to include everybody, so we'll actually get rid of this. I use a spreadsheet for my showdown slates. That's why that was showing up like that, but Now I have it back sorted by result, so we'll talk about this. Course history. I remember during the course of the video, we wanted to find golfers that had some course history. Not so much golfers who had zero course history, but just some. It didn't matter if they played last year or not, but having some mattered. And this is further proof that you wanted some course history. It doesn't look pretty. All the red means bad. Like red means bad. There's no one with green course history until we get down to Cameron Percy, who is doing well, by all accounts, but my apologies. Like Cameron Percy was doing well until the last round. I think he was 4 over before he eagled hole 16. And then I don't remember what he did from there, but he had a very poor Sunday round. Anyways, him, Schwartzel, they did well, but it didn't matter if you had good course history or not. If you did play that angle and you had those two guys, perfect. Good on you. I suppose I can sort by course history, and you can see the top here. Wasn't really that, it didn't really, I want to say supply, but that's the wrong word. It didn't result in good results. Can't think of a better word, so we're going to go with that. The other thing we want to look at were POA splits. And on this spreadsheet, I have this scaled based off of, it's based off, like the colors, it's a scale. So a color scale's on here. The closer it is to dark green, like this color over here, the better it is in the field. So here's what it would look like. Obviously it's scaled, so you can see it goes lighter shades. If we go back by result and we look, we really don't see any red except for Akshay Bhatia, but he only has one POA event and he missed the cut. So we can't really fault him really for having bad POA. But now he has a top 10 to go with that. His top 10 percentage is going to become 50 because he has 2 events. This will now go down to basically 40, 44, whatever it ends up being, 43. No. I'm trying to do in my head right now. So it's 94, so 47. But yeah, for the most part, having decent POA splits, we're good. If I'm sure you probably already saw, but if we were to sort by POA, we see 2 golfers that finish inside the top 10. We don't see anything else. Everybody else did pretty poorly that had good POA splits. So it's not really a stat we really had to go by or what we really want to look at. I actually included another stat, which was, I'm going to hide this, overall bent grass. And actually, I'm going to hide this as well. Only because these greens were both bent and POA. So I wanted to see, was there more, was there a better correlation for bent versus POA? And not really. I guess if I were to, so this is your top 20 leaderboard. There are some guys down here. How about this? Let's just go with everyone inside the top 10. Just makes it easier shouldn't have done that. All right, let's go. Okay, so here up. So the average was, for this, 56.19 for POA. Overall bent, which is right here, 57.57. What was the number I said? 56.19. So it was, POA had a little bit better, an average between the golfers inside the top 10. Which I guess if we're gonna say that had to play into this, so POA gets a slight edge. Basically, is what we're getting at with that. 2020 POA 55.56 or 46, and then 2020 POA was 60.42 or 2020 bent. Sorry. So I mean I'm gonna give the edge to POA over bent. Now, that would conclude the course fit part. Let's go ahead and get into the stat fit part, which we talked a lot about the top 20 stats over here. So again, what this field over here means, golfers who are top 20 in a stat for this field. And the stats that I go over are basically your typical ones. tee to green, off the tee, approach, around the green, putting, green and reg, proximity, and then birdie or better. You can't see it on the screen, but we'll get to it. And I also have this colored based off of scale. So if it's green, it's going to be kind of in the top 20, top 30 of the field. When it gets closer to orange, that's the middle. Actually, yellow would be the middle. Can't remember exactly what I have this under. 0 is the midpoint. So 0 is yellow. That actually makes sense. So it really isn't so much by like percent in the field. You know, it's just 0 is my baseline, which I think I like that. I remember doing it and there was good reason behind it. Tee to green, your best guy, Sergio Garcia, missed the cut. Harold Varner III, finished 29th, wasn't terrible. I don't think he would have hurt you if you would have played him. But yeah, we see a lot of our guys here in the optimal lineup. So when we see like 3 golfers in the optimal lineup for a stat, that's usually a good stat to go by. So tee to green, pretty decent. You can see here. We look off the tee. Again, we have 3, but it's pretty much the same guys. So we got Redman, Higgs, and Streelman. Tee to green, Redman. Actually, not really. We have Streelman, we have Redman, and now we have Reeve. So Higgs joins this one, but we have Streelman and Redman. So those are your off the tee guys that were also tee to green. Approach Redman. So like Redman was just a great choice to play regardless. Same with Reeve. That's impressive. So Reeve was on the top here? Okay. And then Harry Higgs was the only guy that kind of added to this. So Streelman, Reeve, Redman, Higgs, Streelman, and then we have Redman, Reeve. So obviously Redman was like a clear-cut winner as to why we should have played him. I don't know if around the green really mattered. We only have 2. Actually, that's not bad. I mean, it's a stat to consider. Putting was not. The winning lineup for the $3 birdie obviously had that guy in there, as indicated by the color in blue. Green and reg, just 1 inside the optimal lineup, 2 for the winning lineup. So yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. We have 2 here for proximity. Really, it's tee to green, off the tee, and approach. Those were the 3 stats, and those are usually the 3 stats you want to be looking at. Tournament in and tournament out. It just works. It works so much better. And then birdie or better. Although we do see golfers inside the top 20, we only have 1 that was in the optimal lineup. I guess it's not fair to just strictly go by optimal lineup because we have so many golfers that were in the top 20 for like proximity. We have 2 guys that finished 3rd. We have 2 guys that finished 9th, 2 guys that finished 14th. Green and reg, there's 4, which isn't terrible, but definitely not something that I would brag about. 2 for putting. 3 basically. I mean, if we're talking about top 10s though, only 2. Approach had 3 inside the top 10. And actually, we don't have an optimal guy there. We do in off the tee and tee to green. But one of the guys in tee to green had approach, and that's why we were talking about approach. Was that Brendan Steele? Yeah, okay. So he was in the winning lineup, not the optimal. So approach wasn't really all that necessary. Tee to green and off the tee. Stats that typically you're going to find pretty decent on top of the leaderboard, that is. Driving distance, don't really see. I like using driving distance for potential. It didn't really show up. Driving accuracy did, though. Holy crap. 4 golfers inside the optimal lineup, inside the top 20 of driving accuracy for this tournament. That's pretty crazy. How about good drive percentage? 4 again. Is it the same guys? Stewart, sure. Streelman, yeah. Yeah, same guys. Reeve, Redman, Streelman, Stewart. Reeve, Stewart, Redman, Streelman. Yep, okay. And how about bogey avoidance? Did that matter? Just 2 golfers. So driving accuracy, wow. Like that's crazy. 4 golfers inside the optimal lineup. Let's see where the other 2 golfers were. A little bit further down. Harry Higgs, not that great. And then Stuart Sink kind of at the bottom. So not one to really go by. And honestly, Stuart Sink had zero stats where he was top 20 in. Like proximity, he was pretty good, but obviously fell outside the top 20 of proximity. And really, all of his stats just did not look good. So stat fit, Stu Sink didn't really fit that, but I guess if we were thinking about like course fit, not terrible POA, not terrible bent, pretty decent. So yeah, those were those 2. Now we go talk about our strategy. So the strategy, in my strategy video, I included, or I added scoring average and how many times, like the percent of rounds under 70. I thought this was actually a pretty good, like it would give us a little bit of an advantage looking at something like this. And in all reality, I had said in that strategy video, we wanted golfers that had 34% or better. Most of these golfers here at the top, very close to that 34%, but I mean, other than say Christopher Ventura, JJ Spawn, obviously Akshay Bhatia, like that's pretty terrible down here. Most of them had over 30% and very close to 34%. I don't know why 34% was one of those numbers I liked, but I think it was because most of the golfers that I liked heading into this tournament had 34 or better. And there wasn't really any reason. Like it was just one of those occurrences that I saw like, wow, I like this golfer before seeing his scoring average or before seeing how many rounds under 70 he had. And then now that I see that, the more and more I saw golfers that I liked having 34% or better, the number just stuck. So really, I guess I could have went with like 32 or even just greater than 30. But I did include it. I thought it was really interesting. And we can see, I guess if I were to hide these stats and bring round 1 through 4 scoring into this, we can kind of do a little bit of a cross analysis here. So like I said during the results part of this, Stuart Sink, very consistent scoring. 65 to finish out his tournament. Like that's pretty clutch. Having 2 rounds of 65 in round 3 and round 4. That's awesome. He started off with a 67 and then a 70. Nothing super. I mean, he made the cut. He made the cut by 2. I was going to say he made the cut on the number, but that's not right. This was 5 under. This is 2 under. That's 7. Cut was at 5 under, which is 3 shots better than any other year, that going back to 2013, that is. But yeah, I really looked at the scoring average. When I created lineups, I really didn't include anybody that had terrible scoring average, but the field average was 71.26, and every one of these golfers, except for Christopher Ventura, was under that 71.26. Kind of thought it was going to be a scoring fest, and in most, not really so much a scoring fest, but it was going to be low enough scores where we wanted to keep that into consideration. If we were eyeing 17 under, obviously we needed a pretty decent scoring average. So, like Stuart Sink, pretty decent scoring average. I also recorded their lowest round of 2020. Stuart Sink's was 66. That was a differential between, low round and scoring average of 5.19. I didn't really care for that. Like all these guys in this dark red, it wasn't something I was pinpointing. It wasn't something I liked. So I didn't go for that. And he only had 19 rounds under, or 19 rounds under 70. So it was also something I really didn't like. I'm trying to make this smaller. There we go. Like Stuart Sink just wasn't a golfer that I personally liked based off of his numbers. Now, I'm going to let you guys look at the rest of this. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. What I'm going to go to now I guess I can open this back up. Although I don't really talk about that, so not a big deal. The one thing I'm going to talk about is I did a model after. Basically, I didn't include this in the strategy video because I didn't have enough time. I added all these scoring stats, and my analysis of the scoring stats just took a little bit longer to process. So I didn't have time to make a model, and I wasn't even sure what I wanted to create that model off of. What I ended up doing was including scoring stats, POA. Here, let me see. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was the last year bucket, POA average, rounds under 70. So it was their percentage, I should say, times 100. And then 3.81, what is this? 82. So it was their scoring average. 74 minus 82. Either way, it was an equation that I ended up creating to find a multiplier. So I multiplied it by that number. Now, what is it? Like, this is going to bother me. Oh, the highest number. That's what it was. Okay. Totally fine. So basically, if it was blank, I just made it a 1. If it wasn't blank, then it was 74 minus whatever this was plus 1. And that was because the highest rated one, or the highest average, was 74.87 in the field. So that one that was at 74.87 wouldn't be a negative number. That's why I added the 1. And that's what the multiplier was. So it was going by scoring average. And then what I did was I basically just divided, whatever that number was into the entire field. The greener the number, the higher the value. So your highest value was Shane Lowry. And that's why I really liked Shane Lowry. Sure, we see a couple guys up here that finish inside the top 3. We actually even have the winner. So we have 5 golfers. We have 3 inside the optimal lineup. It was really interesting to look at that, because I wasn't on Stewart Sink. Over here on this X mark, like, this was just me eyeballing everything. Here, let me go back by this. So me eyeballing everything had a lot to do with what I just saw with stats, with scoring average and that kind of thing. But for his price, Stewart Sink was actually a good value. And I didn't know that beforehand. Like, I created this after just to have something to review. This actually looks pretty decent when we look at a lot of this up here. Obviously, there's going to be some variance because this is golf and there is volatility. But for the most part, again, I eyeballed this over on the left side. X means I wasn't going to play him. Y means I was. And then these little dash marks mean I was unsure of it. All in all, it worked out pretty good. So I think that's what I'll try to do going forward. I mean, there are so many things to take into consideration for picking DraftKings lineups. Maybe not for some of you guys. Some of you guys just might just go by gut feeling, which is obviously you do you. Like, if that's what you want to go with, it will save you time. I like to try to find an answer. And again, I'm getting closer. Let's put it that way. It'll be a matter of time before I have this figured out. Maybe not 100%, but if I can get somewhere close to like 70%, that would be pretty good. Now, when I filter out by this number, obviously missed cut. Like, there's enough missed cuts up here to cause a little bit of concern or to question. So anyways, not something like this isn't something I'm proud about. We'll have to figure out what happened there. I mean, Shane Lowry just couldn't putt, basically. Neither could Sergio. And I was not going to play Spieth no matter what. Even if this number was good, I was never going to play him. But either way. Last thing I want to talk about is tee time pairings. So if I went by game, everything that was highlighted in green were golfers that I liked. I'm not going to go through, or there were pairings that I liked. I'm not going to go through all of these. What I'm going to do is sort it by result again, and obviously there were enough green up here. Like I could have made a lineup off of all of these golfers, but obviously I didn't. I shouldn't say obviously, just so you know, I didn't do the greatest this week. I'm sure a lot of us didn't do that great. But Time Pairings, there were enough golfers up here that I liked the groups that they were in that finished inside the top 10. At least one of them did. I see nobody up here that fell into the same group. So pairing golfers up, maybe not the greatest. I guess maybe I should filter by and see if we can find any 2 golfers that finished inside the top 10. So obviously I missed one, Pat Perez and Kevin Streelman. That was a good one. I was very much on Keegan Bradley, which should have pivoted, but oh well. Bud Cauley finished well. His other 2 partners did not. Harry Higgs, another group that I liked with Harold Varner. You know, I could have made a bunch of lineups with Varner and Higgs. I probably made a couple, but nothing that really turned out that great. Yeah. This one kind of struck out for me. Cam Davis was owned by a lot of people, like nearly 25% in the $3 birdie. But any other contest I was in, he was either 25% or higher. Which, yeah, he's a solid play. And at 8,900, it was a good one. I liked. I'm not going to talk about everybody. Never mind. Mark Hubbard, I think, screwed a bunch of us. 28%. Missed the cut. His Friday round was just awful. Thursday round was good, but Friday not so great. Doc Redman with Kyle Stanley would have been fine. I mean, Stanley was 4%. He wasn't talked about by many, but just the fact that he was in a group with a golfer we liked would have been a pretty decent play. The Steele, Mickelson, and Lowry group just failed miserably. Although Steele was in the $3 winning lineup, he still didn't play that great at the end. All of these guys made the cut, but none of them were better than 46th, which I really like JB. 75 points wasn't terrible. 9 points less than Steele, which, if you had 5 of the guys in the optimal lineup plus JB Holmes, you'd have won the $3 birdie. I'm not going to talk about the rest of them. You guys can see it on the screen. Really pairing matchups or creating lineups with some of these guys in matchups just didn't play out as well as other tournaments had. So that is the end of the review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I actually forgot to mention something, and I'm sure most of you guys aren't going to be watching all the way till now, but I do have to mention we will, Chad Eckert and I from the Fantasy Golf Pod will have a spreadsheet out for you guys tomorrow on the US Open. So stay tuned for that. You'll see updates in on our Twitter. You'll also see an update in my next preview video for the US Open. But until then, thank you for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you at the US Open. All right, bye.